Hey there, welcome to episode 41 of the Mindful Mama Movement podcast. I'm Shannon Kinney-Dew, creator of A Free Spirit Life.
And I'm Ashley Walburn, owner of Home Holistic, and together we are bringing back the Mindful Mama Movement podcast.
Mindful mothering is about nurturing yourself while you nurture others. It's about consciously awakening to your inner wisdom, strength, power, and peace as a mother in this changing world.
From discovering your newborn to accepting and loving the people who've left your nest, our movement is inspiring mothers to be authentic and to live empowered lives.
We're so happy you're here. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Shannon and Ashley's here with me. And
hi, everybody.
We're excited to just have an update conversation today. But as we were just talking with each other, we're always interested to see the themes, the common themes that you and I, are experiencing seem to be relatable. And we like to talk about it in the moment because we know that, especially this topic today, I'm sure a lot of you feel. And we're talking about feeling uncomfortable, doing things that make us feel uncomfortable or really get us out of our comfort zone. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And before we hop into that topic, though, I want to celebrate you and Home Holistic and making your 8th birthday of your business and talk about doing something uncomfortable. Like, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you. Feels surreal. It feels like we've been in business like 6 months. And also, I kind of don't remember my life without it at the same time.
I remember when you called me and said, I bought a building. And I was like, what? And it was just kind of like one of those things where in a lot of ways, from my outside perspective, I just watched you like, oh my God, she's doing it. She doesn't even know what she's doing. And here she's buying this building and you're getting it. How should we paint it? And you had this vision that was really guiding you in that conviction of, propelling you to do that. But like going back, Ashley, like, did you always think you were going to run your own business or was
No.
this? Okay. So what gave you that drive then? Because I think to do something, and did it feel uncomfortable at the time?
Because I feel like several years, for those of you that don't know me, that I was teaching prenatal yoga and working as a birth doula for about 8 years before I started my own business and kind of teaching all over town. But one yoga studio that really embraced me locally, and I really grew a big following there that I felt like I was just outgrowing. There were just no more class times that I could do, but the mothers that I was supporting wanted more. And so I was teaching as much as I could in the times available. And I had a meditation teacher who actually worked right after me on Sundays. So we were there together, like my class was ending and her class was starting. So we always had like 15 minutes together and I would often stay for her meditation class. And just one day, I don't know, I'd been looking and I was maybe going to go into business with that business owner. And then I was going to maybe go into business with a friend. And it kept kind of not working out. And I felt like I kind of kept energetically putting my heels in the sand or putting the brakes on. And she said to me, are their dreams the same as your dreams? And that was the first kind of spark for me that was like, no, actually, my dreams are completely different than their dreams. They were just totally into and supportive of my dreams. And thank God for it, or I wouldn't be here. And then I had a chiropractor appointment, and this guy that we used to go to was just really great. And one of my kids had something going on, so we were there like 3 times a week for 2 years. And he saw me in process, and we were always talking. And one day he said to me, Ashley, you're the only one that's putting the brakes on. The universe is pulling you to do this. you take your brakes on, this thing's just gonna, or you take your brakes off, this thing's just gonna happen. And those two were kind of
Whoa.
big events for me that it was like, what am I putting the brakes on for? And
Right.
I started evaluating that. And he was always like a, can I be frank with you type of person with what was going on with my kids and myself. Like, this is coming up for me, Ashley. So both of those things made me feel like I've got to do this by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And if I take the brakes off, let's just see what happens. And then a building came available in the area that I wanted that was, I wouldn't say affordable, but more affordable than a renter. I mean, a rental, frankly, by a lot. And that it just, things started happening. But I remember like, I was like buying the building and signing papers and feeling like buyer's remorse immediately. And like, who's going to do payroll? I don't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you figure out your class schedule? Like, I just taught at the times that I was kind of given. And so my brain was just like,
Yeah.
who the heck knows that? And, what I have found is truly jump in. Like, there's something that I did feel pulled and guided, and my classes were well attended. And I think I'd attended 600 births before I started this business. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I had a name and a following, but I still like the little Ashley girl for me felt like, you're not really good enough to do this.
Yeah.
Hey, little Ashley, that you're going to screw this up and everybody's going to find out that you're just a big old dummy. That I had that a lot, and
Yeah.
still kind of do sometimes. I mean, that I'll have, what I would call like imposter syndrome, or something that feels like, oh, there's a, similar business. I'm going down,
Right.
I'm never going to be the great one. And that's not ever, not one time, the feedback that I've ever received. But, there's like a little insecure person inside of me that still lives in there that's like, you should have just left your brakes on, girl. And
Yeah.
but 99% of the time, so many times when I'm at home holistic, or, you know, supporting a mom in person, whatever, that I literally just want to say, like, I love you, life, that I'm so proud of myself for stepping out of that, the parts of me that are insecure, and stepped into the parts of me that were like, if not you, then who?
Mm.
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
that's so powerful. Everything that you said, this
Mm.
idea that whole concept, years ago when they'd say like, get out of your own way, I didn't understand really what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what you just visualized for us. Like, blocking the universe. And, that's really an example of getting in your own way. And then once you just surrendered, in essence, and stepped aside, the urges, the synchronicities, the right building, the right people started coming into your life. And I love that you really share that you didn't exactly know how. And I think that so many times we don't step out of our comfort zone or do things that are uncomfortable or follow those inner urges because we simply don't know how, and we get stuck in that, right? And
Yeah.
so
And
I
the
just,
fear and the insecurity overtakes the, like, my true life purpose.
yeah,
Like, I am
yeah.
here for a reason and I know it. And the fear and anxiety was the obstacle that I placed in front of
Mhm.
my truth, or living my truth.
Right. I had someone years ago tell me that, the flip side of fear is passion. And so anytime you're super
Mm.
passionate about something, you're always going to have fear. It's just part of that. And so to just remember that has been, you know, you just really described it so beautifully. Like, do we want to stay stuck on that flip side of fear, or can we just follow our passion and just trust fear is going to be there? And we're always going to have that little imposter syndrome or that voice say, what are you doing? But the fact that you continued onward and just kind of let the universe guide you up to this moment extremely powerful. So thanks for sharing that story. And even now,
Yeah.
it's like you don't even know how you're going to get to the next goal, right? But it's just going to
Yeah.
keep opening up. Yeah. And
Yeah. I
think
do
about
think, without being, I don't know, one-linery, I do think the universe has our back, and that I I think life is talking to us, and that I had a real um intuition that I was supposed to be a birth worker and supposed to support mothers, and I was already a marriage and family therapist. Like I had skills to do it, but I felt like I had to go to this prenatal yoga teacher training, and I really couldn't afford it. Like we took out a home equity loan, that I couldn't afford to go and do this training at the time, but it was like nothing was stopping me from doing that. And now I think I had to do that in order to be here. That the pull, that felt like, I don't know why, but I feel like I've got to do this. That feels even crazy for me to think about saying to my husband right now, like, hey, I just finished graduate school and I know that I just had our fourth kid, and I'm going to leave you for 2 weeks and go and do this training that I really believe in. And it just, I don't know,
see when
started
you
flowing.
right. I
Mm-hmm.
love you and I are like we're on Zoom, but we're like leaning towards each other. Like anytime you talk about it, it's that leaning in. It's the guttural energy of your intuition, just like oh, like you can't even stop it anymore. It's just
Yeah.
guiding, right? And you listen, and the more that you listen, the more you can be uncomfortable. And I think that's the thing I'm really facing right now too. Is like really anything that you is really don't you think we're just being guided to constantly do things that make us feel uncomfortable? Like
Yes.
on the other side of that uncomfortability is really where we're supposed to go next. But so
Yeah.
often we resist it, right? It's like, because
Mm-hmm.
does feel scary and it feels so
Well, and I
unknown.
think, you guys that are frequent listeners, that like, that we've talked about human design, and that Shannon tells that, I mean, we were just like having coffee and it was similar, that she was like, you want to do a podcast? And like, I don't know that I even knew what a podcast was at the time. I hadn't listened
She
to one
laughed.
yet.
She's
And I
like,
was like,
sure. You went and Googled
yeah,
it. What's a podcast?
I know. How did you spell that again? But for me, I can look back now. I'm 50. I can look back and look at my career and look at even like big mothering moments, big moments with my partner. I mean, I left my oldest son's dad and I didn't really want to, that I knew that I couldn't be in relationship with him and be my child's mother. And that, that it was a strong pull that I listened to. And it was, probably one of my top best decisions I've ever made. But it was really hard. It was really hard to leave this relationship and step into being a single mom. And I moved to Kansas City with my son. We were living in Emporia, which is a small town 100 miles away. And I moved to Kansas City with my 2-year-old son 1 week after college graduation, and I didn't have a job. And so I think like now I can look back and I'm like, oh, you've done some brave stuff, Ashley. Like
Mhm.
I've done some stepping out of comfort zones. And not one time when I say it was like, oh yeah, like I just step into my truth, like
Right.
it did never feel like
Right.
a ease ever. That my uncomfortable is like a lot of resistance and a lot of
Ooh,
like,
yeah.
oh shit, like you're on a roller coaster and you're going up the first
Yes.
big hill, like,
Yes.
oh, I think I don't want to do it.
And you're jerking and you're on that like wooden one that like,
Yeah.
you totally need a chiropractic appointment after you're off. But
Yeah, it's a terrible experience. But I, but every single time it was like, no, I had to jump on that roller coaster in order to
yes,
get to this new thing
it's
that
good.
is moving me to, I mean, without being like, I don't know, like sometimes I'm like, am I too woo woo for anyone? That, but to really step into the full expression of myself that what am I really here for? I want to be that inspiration for my own self,
Yeah. I
but
don't
for
think
my
that's woo woo.
children.
I think that's mindfulness. And I think that's the theme of our show is like we've been taught that to live the fullest expression of yourself should be weird in some way. And I think that's what we're
Mhm.
all called, that's what we're really talking about, isn't it? Like to follow those inner urges. And I love what you said, like, are their dreams the same as your dreams? Like, what an
Mhm.
awesome question for all of us to ask in life. Because anytime we're resisting an inner urge, because it's usually, if it's one of those intuitive urges, it's usually pushing us to something that we're here to learn, that we're here to ready for, right? And
Mhm.
like, but if we think we all are supposed to have the same dream or it's too weird to want to be your truest expression of yourself, like
Mhm.
that's already blocking ourselves from what's on the other side, even though it's super scary. But I think about like even the roller coaster, like you have to get on you have to, the
Mhm.
scariest part to me is getting in line. When
Yes.
I'm in
Oh
line and
yeah.
I'm anticipating and I'm just watching it go, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like that, the Target or what Kristen Wiig on SNL where she's all excited and she's gonna like, oh my God. Like I can't take it. I'm just like bursting out of my
Yeah.
skin. Then I get on the ride and it's like, well, too late. And your list, that's the right. You're going up the hill, but eventually maybe you can put your hands up and just like, all right, we're already on the ride.
Yeah.
We're going for it, But it's
Yeah.
getting in line and trusting yourself and trusting that your dream is different than anyone else's dream. How can you follow
Yeah.
those urges and know that even though you don't know how, you have to go. You have to be uncomfortable to get to the other side, to get off that dang ride.
Yeah. It's really hard for me as a parent, um, with, I've got these older, college age kids, and that their dream is also different than my dream. And
Mm.
their dream is different than my dream for them. Or even when I'm like, oh, I can totally see you being a whatever, that they're they've got to walk their own path, and they've got to have those experiences with a meditation teacher or an inspirational TikTok video or whatever it is that all of a sudden gives them, what I would say kind of the aha moment. That's like, I've got to go down this road. I've got to
So
try
true.
it. It feels
Right.
really exciting.
That's so important. And I like how you brought up the fact that it's not easy or you feel ease because I think sometimes you think if I'm going the right path, it should just open up for me. But there's always the next challenge that we have to face. And, that's a really good reminder for our kids too. It's like they might have to go down a whole bunch of different paths before they find a groove, before they get in the
Yeah.
zone, before they get where they need to get. Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. Tell me about your
Oh
out
my
of your
God.
comfort zone that
Yeah. So
spending a
I'm
summer
doing
have
the
for you.
same thing as far as like, I'm literally on that roller coaster hill with my arms up, going, I don't know where this is taking me. I'm screaming along the way. It feels pretty joyful and exciting, but it's super scary also. One of my urges recently, and actually, let me just explain how this came about. So, my husband is working a lot, going through some changes with his work. He brought up the idea of, and he kind of does this sometimes especially as if he's stressed. He's like, let's just move to Costa Rica. That's kind of his like,
Uh-huh.
right? We're just gonna just pack up and leave and we'll move to Costa Rica. And, I started thinking about it and I'm like, I work virtually. The kids have virtual school. We could move someday, right? We could do anything. And so I started researching and I landed on these families that do what's called a gap year and they travel for a year and sometimes they rent their house, sometimes they sell their house.
Mhm.
So that piqued my interest. So I started following them a little bit. And what I learned from all of this was I need a home. I need to be grounded in my home environment. It's my retreat, it's my sanctuary, it grounds me. I do like to travel, but I still need that place. So being like out on the road or moving to another country didn't speak to me right now. But then I thought about, but I could take a gap. This is my baby step. I could take a gap month.
Yeah.
And as I started exploring that, all of a sudden, like everything opened up for me. I've been painting a lot, and I've had this idea swirling for a while, and it just came. And
Mm.
I launched it this week, and I'm calling it my Wildflower Tour. And it's literally like my product launch, where I've had these paintings I've been doing. I've been writing for years. I've been working on these guided journals I've taught them in courses and on retreats, but I'm actually like wanting to make these tangible blank
Mhm.
and guided journals and these affirmation cards and decks. And same thing, Ashley, I've had those moments of like, you're not good enough. And how can you, but that's gone like so far, like that's at the back of the roller coaster ride at this point. Like I'm just in the front
Mhm.
seat now. And I, I decided within a 2 day period, I'm going to do like a Kickstarter, and I'm going to inform, and this is going back to human design. Manifestors need to inform people about what they're doing, because other people, wise
Mhm.
people don't understand them anyway, but they really need to
Mhm.
understand by sharing. And so I'm like, you know what? I don't typically tell all my people in my life, my cousins, my dad's friends, like, what I do in my work. And this has really put me out there to say, hey, this is something I truly believe in. I am going on this wildflower tour. I'm going to go talk to beekeepers and
Mm.
flower farmers, and I'm going to immerse myself in nature and paint in nature. And I am asking for support to bring these products to fruition. And then a portion of my product sales are going to go back to helping the pollinators. So it's like
That's so
it's
great.
something I've always wanted to do, supporting the bees and the butterflies, and I have this idea of wanting to, like, help people plant butterfly gardens and work with farmers markets. And yeah, it's but the scary part for me was literally asking for support and telling people that this is my dream, because I was the same thing, like, really putting the brakes on, saying, well, who does this? Who just like picks up their family and moves somewhere? And I'm not moving anywhere, but I'm really taking myself to places that may not make sense to other people, but to me, that's how I create the best, when I can really connect with nature. And then I know I have this like knowing, just like you did when you started your business, like I know this is what I need to do. I don't know how it's all going to come.
Mhm.
I don't know what
Mhm.
even is going to transpire, but I've put it out there. I have people supporting my it's like a Kickstarter page, and I'm going for it. And I'm really excited about it. I'm really terrified too, but mostly excited.
I think the terrifying part, you know, it's not dread. That
No,
terrifying doesn't mean like,
no,
ah,
exactly.
crap, what have I done here? That I've never felt like that. There's times that I'm like, whew, this, Ashley, you really bit off a lot. But I still feel, my sister said to me one time, I was probably just like complaining. And she was like, why don't you sell everything? And I was like, I'm going to do that. Like, not one part of me wants it to end. Sometimes I wish I got like maybe more sleep, that,
Right.
or that, that I could take a, gap month. I like a true gap month. Like, can I just stay at home and nobody calls? For me, the yes, the this I've been creating and I've been creating, and now it's time to share. Like, it is just like the next step. I
Exactly.
listened to this, it might have been a podcast. I don't remember what it was, but the gist of it is, if we could see our life like a New York City apartment building, that on the very top of the apartment building, there's this really cool rooftop deck that, when you step in and you're on the main floor, it just looks like a lot of stairs. It looks like a lot of doorways.
Mm.
And when you get to the top, there's this view that you can't even imagine. But you know how you get there? A step. That you can't get to this like, I've got all this art if you've never done art before. You got to
Right.
start doing the art. You
That's
got
right.
to start doing the beekeeping. Like, I've
Mhm.
got to learn and dip my toes.
Yeah.
And that's, a step. And then I got to take the next step. For me, it's like, what's next? And mindful mama movement is something that for sure Shannon and I, when we started, we knew nothing. We didn't know how to push play, that we didn't know anything about editing and putting it out there, and that we've learned so much. But the first step was Shannon saying, hey, you want to do a podcast? And me saying, yeah, I do. I think that sounds fun. Let's do it. And then recording the first show.
Right.
And then you start figuring out the editing and you start figuring out the production. But the yes had to happen. And so I feel like for both of us, like with our businesses and with launching, and I remember when you did your first online class, that it was such a big deal that nobody was doing online classes yet, that nobody was doing these online workshops. Yes. No one. And that was a step to being here today. That
it's so true. And I love that reminder. Thank you. Because so often we really do have to bite off a little more than you can chew, because that's where it's uncomfortable. And even the reminder of launching an online course, so often I would launch a course and I get all the people signed up and then I'm like, oh crap, now how do I figure this out? Like, how do you use PayPal? Like, I mean, all the things, I just figure it out as I go along. And really, I think that when you are listening to source or being guided or just trusting and doing some of that inner work, the right next step, as you're talking about, does come your way. The right help does come your way. And I think that's probably where I'm at right now in my life, is I'm really seeing that connection of speaking that, of really, I mean, because this is, even asking for support has been very eye-opening to me in my healing journey of, it's so huge. And so speaking it, because it's one thing to say, I'm going to do this and then not announce it to everyone. It's out there now, right? And yet the right next person or the right next thing, that it just keeps unfolding. And so for those of you listening, just really think about your life right now, and are there places where you're like, putting on the brakes? And sometimes we need to just out of plain survival, like we're just not ready to go there, right? And then sometimes it's just a matter of literally asking. I think so many times, and you and I've talked about this in other shows, we really do come from that mindset of, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do it myself, and it's like, I really love the collaboration and the being able to work with others and ask for help. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So if you're listening, you're like,
it's the one thing I wish I would have done more of. As a mom with young kids, I would get overwhelmed, and I just always felt like I've got to do this thing by myself. I wish I would have asked for more help. I wish I would have asked the neighbor lady, that sometimes like family doesn't show up for us in the way that we need them. There's someone else that could help. And if I were to go backwards, that like, I've done everything. I figured out everything. That my husband, he does the payroll, by the way, everybody, that, that there's some things that I'm really good at. That's where I should put my attention. I kind of like cleaning. That everybody's like, why are you still the cleaning lady at Home Holistic? And I'm like, I don't know. I like to clean it. Like that doesn't like deplete me. But doing things like payroll and like detail taxes, like I just would never do it. I would just do a terrible job of it. I'd get arrested. That I can't do it. And so that's not where my energy should go. I can't move forward. I can't take the next step with things that are tanking me. I can do a podcast, that I love to do it. It feeds my soul. And I think as we are parenting, and it doesn't have to be your career that you're stepping out of your comfort zone with. Right. It might be, before we were recording, Shannon and I were talking about comfort zones, and that it could be advocating for your child at the pediatrician or at school. Frankly, you're going to have to do it. If you haven't yet, buckle up, because you're going to, and you're going to have to make different decisions, like staying home with my kids or going back to work. Both of those are stepping out of your comfort zone. Neither one of them are going to feel all the way right.
Mhm.
One's going to feel more right. Lean into it. Take the step, that is helping you achieve that thing that feels uneasy. And I have found that when I do it, I learn it's not going to kill me.
Mhm.
There have been times that I feel like, oh, this is bad. You're not getting stabbed, that it is hard.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm learning and growing, and not everything works, but I
Mhm.
think stepping out of our comfort zone to do something that's like a full expression of my creativity, or that this is my life purpose,
Yeah.
those don't necessarily need to be things that we make money doing,
Right.
but I feel more like myself because I'm doing it, or
Yeah.
I'm feeling held back. I felt like before I opened Home Holistic that I was really a racehorse, and the jockeys, jockey was life. I was the one that was holding the horse back, that just wanted to, like, let me go. I'm going to go so fast here. I was the jockey on top of that horse that was holding him back and chomping at the bit. My energy was like,
Yes.
where are you chomping at the bit? Where does it feel like I need to learn and grow? And where's the universe trying to take me?
And
And
even
is
if
it,
it doesn't make sense, it may not make sense to
yeah,
you. It may not make sense to anyone that you live with, And I do think I like the idea of if there are things that you feel like maybe you're still, it's really like birth. It's like,
yeah,
when you first find out, you're only going to tell a few people you feel really safe with, right? It's like your next idea,
mm-hmm.
your next step or next place of uncomfortability is that takes some nurturing too, and it takes the right people to share until you feel ready to let more and more people know. But I think sometimes we ignore those urges because they don't make sense. And I was the same way with this wildflower tour. It's like it is
Mm-hmm.
bubbling over. It's like it is just I can't. There's no way I could even hide it. I have
Ah,
to do it, right? And
yep,
so, yeah, it's a good feeling, but it's also because I've had practice in like nurturing those smaller steps and then
yeah,
continually like, some when the bigger ones come, you're just like, "Oh my God, I can't even begin to put the brakes on this one. It's just overtaking my
mm,
life."
yeah. It feels so good, and I hope for my children that these things that feel brave, to me, just being a mom, frankly, is like brave and generous. That if nothing else, it's brave and
And
generous. That
uncomfortable.
yes, and we don't know what
Right?
we're doing. I
Yeah.
literally just told my son that's 19 today that, you know, things that happen with 19-year-old boys, that we were having conversation. He's driving out of town, and I said, I I don't know. He's like coming to me for advice. I'm like, I don't know always. He's like, you're the mom. I'm like, well, the mom, we weren't just equipped with knowledge when we gave birth of like how to do this thing.
Uh-huh.
And I think from homeschooling to public school to private school to vaccinating to not vaccinating, natural birth to a C-section that's a choice, that all of those decisions are unique and individual. And I feel like when I'm here I go woo wooing again, that like when I'm centered within myself, and that for me is a yoga class helps with that, but sometimes
Mm,
just like a good night's sleep helps with it, that waking up and not rushing and being behind, that when I feel like myself, when I feel centered in myself, not self-centered, that then I hear the call
mhm.
to the, wildflower tour, to the
Yep.
I have to do this prenatal yoga teacher training. I don't even know why.
Right.
And literally, somebody asked me today, we had a doula meeting, and they were like, was this always your dream? And I was like, no, that it, but a dream happened that opened up doors for the next dream, that opened up the doors for the full expression of my true self and my purpose.
I
Yeah.
love that. Well, I think that's a really beautiful way to just wrap up our conversation around, what's the next right step in your parenting, in your personal life, in your work life? Like, what is that inner nudging, that inner calling, that thing that maybe wakes you up at night, or that thing that you don't have time to think about in the day as you're rushing around, but that keeps coming up? And I think that's something for me I've noticed when something repeats, when it's a thing that I'm like, where's that? Why does that keep coming up? Eventually I have to shine a light on it. Like you said, sometimes it's just closing my eyes before I go to sleep and like, oh, there I am. Okay. There I am. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I always feel like I'm stepping into a morph suit, of myself. Like I'm stepping into a jacket and I'm like, oh, there she is.
Yep.
She's still in there. And part of she is insecure and part of she is really brave. And those two things together are holding hands and helping us, yeah, do that thing that feels nervous sided. My little boys used to say that I love the nervous sided thing.
Yes. Well, let's hold hands together. Let's be brave together. Let's do uncomfortable things together, and let us know what's going on in your life. You can reach out to us at the Mindful Mama Movement podcast. You can go to our website or reach us on Instagram and shoot us a message. Let us know what's going on in your world as far as the next right steps that you're going to take, even though it feels really uncomfortable.
Yeah, even when we're going to do it anyway. Good job, moms.
Thanks again for listening today. You can reach out to us by visiting mindfulmamamovementpodcast.com. If you'd like to learn more about Ashley, you can visit homeholistic.com. And to learn more about Shannon and to become a supporter of her Wildflower Tour, you can visit afreespiritlife.com. Thanks again, and we will see you in the next episode.